Hello, everyone. Welcome to Layers. In this episode, we're talking about something that I feel like every student fears at one point, which is the thesis. It could be the bachelor thesis, a master thesis, a literature review, research. So I know that most of the students panic and you start asking, where do I even start? How, what if my topic is bad? It's not interesting enough, it's not relevant, and the writing a thesis can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so we want to really give you a simple method how to write your research, what they teach us during our master, which was really helpful
And clear.
So we will trying to really give you a simple and clear structure method and give you some tips what to do, what not to do. And we are hoping that this could be helpful for if you're writing a thesis.
Yeah, which is important. It's an important step in everyone's path, student path. So
that you have to go through.
Yeah, we're done now, so we're relaxed and chilling. Now we can talk about it. Yeah.
You want to start? Which one is the first?
I mean, to start the thesis, you need to research or choose a topic, which is probably the most difficult part, because it's something that you're gonna be stuck with for quite some time. I mean, I don't really know other universities. I think it's almost like a year, 6 months, depending on university. So I don't know. So you have to be interested in what you're writing, because if you're not, you're gonna lose interest, and you have to read a lot. So if you like it, it's better, because at the end it's just like something that is enriching you rather than something that you have to do. And keeping you interested is also the main focus and main part. Even though it can happen that you get bored or you don't want to do this anymore at a certain point.
You will be tired, but everyone, I think, is gonna be at the same point.
Yeah, and I think what's important is also like to choose something not because it sounds smart, but because you're interested in it. Like even like simple, like a very simple topic could be very interesting if you choose the right angle or the right point of view, you know?
It changes how you frame it. So it could be also like the important thing is that the topic, it doesn't need to be broad. It's yeah. What?
I mean, you can start broad. You can start broad, but then you have to narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah, I would say a lot, because like I would say you have to narrow it a lot. Then narrower the field is, then
the better
the research is gonna be,
because it's more centered on something.
And also, if it's specific, then you can also write a good conclusion. And if it's too broad, then you're not touching anything. You're trying to say everything but nothing at the same time, because you don't have it's the thesis is not that long for a broad
topic. Unless you're doing a PhD thesis, which is different. But usually it also depends, because the master thesis is usually more on something very specific. The bachelor thesis is maybe sometimes more general. It also depends what you're doing. But it's also normal to be a little bit lost at the beginning. And even if you like many things, or I don't know, just start messy, and maybe what helped also me is maybe doing like a mind map or something to connect things, like starting from a broad topic and going into deeper things. And then from there you can choose what you like more. I think that's very helpful for a starting point.
Yeah. Do your research. If you had a if you have a broader topic, do your research, and then when you do your research, you can find like really interesting things that you can focus on. And while you're doing that, remember to keep everything that you read, every journal, every book, write it down, the author, the date, everything. Like you're studying write for the first time to read, like to build your bibliography.
Yeah.
So then it's easier. If you need a book, you already know where to find it. And
it's also maybe also interesting if you do like a Word or like a PowerPoint or whatever it is with like your bibliography and the phrases that you want to use, the part in the pages, or underline them. Maybe what helps is like to make a little plan with what you find, and also for yourself to give like a schedule with timing, because sometimes like it feels like you're running out of time. But if you make at the beginning like a plan, oh, I want to write 100 words for the introduction, 600 words for this, it can help you like to reach exactly what you want and give you like a plan to start with. So maybe sometimes it feels a little bit clearer what you have to do.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
For the beginning, I would say that helped me a little bit. Then got lost during the process, but
it's normal.
But to start, it's like really good, because then, I don't know, for a little bit of programming, project management.
The second part of the project, I will say, that is identify a research problem. So the topic is not enough, or you have to find the bigger picture and put the problem into a context. That means what do we know now, and then describe the issue. So what do we still need to learn, and show the relevance, and also so why it's important to look into this topic,
and the objectives of like the problem.
You need to find a very clear purpose for your research in this part.
Exactly. And after you have the problem, you can start asking yourself like the research question, which is like where you usually start actually like researching and doing some like the writing, probably, because like you have to ask yourself, what am I adding to the body of knowledge? Every field has a body of knowledge, which is what we know and what we have already, and find like why does it matter, what is missing, like what do I also want to find out from this research. And I found also a tip that even my advisor gave me is usually it's better if you ask yourself how you can do something, and rather than can, because can is something that is given for like, you know, it's the end. If I can do something, it means that you can. But in research, is always better to, even as a research question, how to do something.
Yeah, if you another tip is that you write your research question, and if the answer is yes or no, it's not the right question, because then the research ends there, and like it's not not enough. For example, what a question that I wrote while I was doing my thesis, it was like, does architecture influence emotion? Yes. And that's it, and it's not enough. It's not enough. So the research question should be a little complex, and it has to be relevant. And if you have a good research question, then you will do a good research at the end. And mind that the research question can evolve. If you start with one at first when you research, then the more you're doing your research and reading and look for stuff, the research question can evolve. Probably it will, maybe not, it depends. But if it does, don't worry, don't panic. It's normal, because it follows where your research goes. So
yeah, and you're like, you know, you're reading more, so you're like, oh, this is exactly what I want to research, and then you're going deeper and deeper, and the deeper you go, the more you find what the actual research question is.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little change in the research question, or I started with like 2 or 3, and then I went more specific into the one that I really wanted to focus on. So don't worry about that.
Yeah. So we have the choosing the topic, then the looking for a bigger problem, and then focusing on the research question. And after this, we have the objects of study.
Do we have the objects of study first, or do we have the sources first?
The sources?
Like for me, I first did the source, like the research, like what I wanted to research, and then the objects of study. Because I don't know.
What do you mean?
Like finding the sources, the right sources.
For me, it was more finding the sources where follows the whole process. Like it starts with even choosing a topic, and then when I go more into the at the end, like when I have the methodology, the plan, everything, then I select what I actually need. That's what I did, but it's like
no, I'm asking because I think that was the part where I was like, it was trickier for me because even the methodology and stuff, I was like, what is that? Like, what is the methodology? And then I was like, but I already was researching and reading while I was doing like the methodology, and from my sources, then I found the objects of study that I wanted to take. But it was based on my readings, for me mostly.
Yeah, I feel like they're connected.
Yeah,
because like the objects of study are what exactly you will look for your research. So you like little topics that you will use to help you build your all your research. So I don't know, like materials, text, people that I'm focusing on, or spaces, little topics that you're
we're talking more for interior design, architecture, or creative fields, but it can be literally anything. Yeah. Like even users, if you're more into psychology, like actual case studies maybe of a specific problematic, or it really depends. Like it's very broad, and there are a lot of objects of study that you can take into considerations.
It helps you build priorities and like boundaries and limitations for your research, so you don't get lost and go too broad or too specific in one thing that you don't need. So the objects of study gives you a list of what you have to focus. I mean, what was for me, but
that you're focusing on. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Like, the objects of study. What's next then?
Methodology?
Yeah. So for the methodology, when it was written in the paper that you have to describe like the introduction, the research question, the methodology usually is in the first chapter of your thesis, because you're giving the explanation of everything. I was like, what does it mean? Because I never did like a proper research before. But like the methodology is basically how will the research happen. So I then found out that it's like two different things, either quantitative or qualitative research and methodology. So qualitative is more like words, meaning, experiences, while quantitative is more like the numbers, statistics, measurements. And from there, then you have also the primary research and secondary research that are all part of the methodology. And the primary research is more like interviews, surveys, so you're also putting yourself out a little bit, maybe. It's also important to ask other people what they think. And then the secondary is more like books, articles, what you're basing also your research on, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So the primary is what you're doing, and the secondary one is more like where you get your informations from, I would say.
Yeah, and you can you don't have to choose one. You can, but you can also mix them.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
your research could be a mix of them or just one. It depends what you need, what you like.
What you like.
What do you like? What do you need?
I mean, it's important to maybe have an idea of what you exactly. I mean, you have the objects of study, so they can help you, like, also seeing what's best for. I don't know. Probably I don't know. A mathematician would use more quantitative than qualitative research, but maybe like I don't know.
Yeah, for example, in interior design architecture, it's easier to use a qualitative than quantitative because it's a very subjective field. For example, like how people experience space is very subjective, so it's difficult to do a quantitative research than a qualitative. But it depends on your field and your topic. But in general, do you have any tips
for the methodology?
For not for everything, like for every phase. Do you have tips or like rules that you followed?
I mean, yes. So when we find the sources, for example, like you have very different, and it's very important to have very different type of sources, not to focus just on one kind. Journal articles are probably the best source. That's what everyone says. But always also be sure of your sources. Don't trust Google. Don't trust ChatGPT. All those kind of things, because most of the times, like their sources are wrong. So be really sure on what you're researching. Maybe also go in the bibliography of other sources to check to find more sources. That's very helpful. That's helped me a lot, because then maybe someone is like paraphrasing someone else, and it's very useful to go.
Especially when you have a really a book or a journal that you really like and you find super useful, you have to go through the like his or what his bibliography and check for other sources. Like you will find for sure sources that you will enjoy or you will need.
Yeah.
But don't copy it, like copy paste, because then it's plagiarism.
That's something else that we don't want to get into, because that's very scary. So really make sure, and also remember that research doesn't mean collecting everything, but collect what matters to you. Like sometimes you're reading something and it's very interesting, but it's not what you're interested in. So just move on. Just move to something else.
Yeah. And yeah, you really need to evaluate your sources. So your sources.
Yeah.
Your sources. So who wrote this? He's, she, whatever, or the group who did it was relevant, or when it was written, because also it needs to be a recent. Most of your sources need to be recent, or half of them needs to be recent to make your research relevant, because you can use all your sources from the, I don't know, 18th century or whatever, like
you can't.
or 19th, and another tip that I would say is to really focus on building a conversation during while you're writing your thesis, building an argument. It's not just like a summary of your sources. You need to really build an argument and put together authors and explain and analyze what you found. that's really important. That what makes your research interesting. And what is helpful is to look for tensions while you're reading a thesis or while you're reading a research. Tension, so it's what makes the research interesting. So
the gaps, what are like the things that are missing, or if someone is saying something, what is that the other person saying? Like these contradictions are very important as well. And then I would say, like, especially for interior design or design in general, we talked about objects of studies, but there's also like the visual analysis that we're doing. Not only interior, not only in the design field, I would say, but like diagrams can help, like, make it visual, because it's easier to understand also your research if you make things a little bit more visual and concrete, like, I don't know, diagrams, maps, sketching, collages, overlaying, cataloging, like at the beginning, like what I was saying with the words and everything. It's something very helpful, because I don't know, I think it's easier to understand something if you see, especially if someone is reading your research and doesn't know anything about your topic. Usually images or diagrams have more of an impact on people, so that they don't have to read maybe everything.
Also case studies, the selection of, if you're using case studies, the selection needs to be right. That means that you have to create a criteria of analysis. So you need to build the categories where you actually helps you to choose which case study you need, and you can, so that then it's easier to compare them and arrive to a conclusion.
Yes, and case studies are also, like, I don't know, fun a little bit, because you're basically combining like what you're researching with practice, so like what's already existing. And I think that's also fun because you're seeing how what you're researching is built at the end. So I think it's also a fun part of the research. It's usually towards the end. Usually you have like the introduction part, chapter where you have an introduction, methodology, research question, and then you have, I would say, 3 chapters. The last one including the case studies or a project you're taking, because the case studies can also be just one case study that is very big, or multiple to see and showcase differences. Really depends.
It shouldn't be more than 5.
Yeah, 5.
I will say, because then, but of course it depends on your research, so it depends.
Yeah,
it really depends.
But yeah, I would say also, like, the common mistakes that people do is like to choose like a broad topic or something that it's trending right now, but nobody cares. Like, you don't have to choose something because it's trending, because trends are also like trends, so they're always constantly changing. So I would say choose something that interests you, not because it's trending or okay, I don't know.
No, I think it's right. Because then you're really not interested in the topic, so it's gonna be difficult to move on for 6 months or a year or whatever. In one of the most important thing is you have to cite everything. Remember to cite everything. Even if you read something and then you think, okay, I can paraphrase it and put it inside has my thoughts. No, plagiarism
doesn't work like that. And trust me, guys, everyone, this is very scary. Plagiarism is a real thing. Make sure that you always have your sources, citations. We use the Chicago Manual of Style, but there are, depending on university, different styles of how you have to like do citations. It's very hard. It's not easy, but we don't want to go to prison.
Please don't. That's what we were scared of. Oh, please, we were gonna be 6 months in prison after these 6 months of writing a thesis, and then it's not worth it.
I was so scared because also I was like, oh my god, like most of the times it's not even intentional, you know. But so double check. For me, what's important as well, a tip: have someone else other than your advisor reading your thesis, even if it's someone that it's, or even better if it's someone that it's not specifically in your field, because then if they can understand what you're writing, then you're successful. Because if someone that is completely opposite field understand what you're saying, that's amazing. Even just for the grammar things, you're writing a lot, sometimes you're reading the same things, so you don't even acknowledge your mistakes anymore.
Yeah, no,
if you have someone else, that's good.
I think also if you don't have someone else, you have to pause for a second. Don't keep reading it multiple times after the other, but because you, as you said, you will never see the mistakes. Like at one point, you don't. I don't know how, but you don't.
You don't see anything anymore.
So put a day of rest, and then you read it again the day after, so you're more focused, and it's easier to spot what is wrong if you don't have someone who can read it. I would say another tip could be that.
Yeah.
And it's, I would say that at the end of when you're writing the conclusions, it's really important to show how you're contributing to the topic. It doesn't have to be that you're proposing like something completely new or unexpected. It could be, I don't know, a strategy, a frame, not a summary.
No, maybe showcase also the difficulties that you had, for example,
the
like
limitations.
Exactly, like that's very important.
Because
at the end it's your research. Show what you got and your perspective. Yeah, I think to conclude a little bit, I would say that research does change your perspective on something, and I feel like you're also a little bit changed after reading so much. But the goal is not just to find like answers, it's really like to learn how to think critically. That's why also in the conclusion it's important to show your thoughts and what you learn from this, because a good thesis, it's not showing information, but it's showing a way of thinking at the end.
That's good. That's good. That was amazing.
Yeah.
We can conclude with that because it was really good.
Okay.
A beautiful conclusion, I was
okay.
Speechless.
I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was helpful. As always, we're gonna put some tips on our Insta page and our TikTok. So like a little bit of summary of what we said. So see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.